All right, so now that we have our two animation clips, the one where the cube is doing when we enter into the scene and the one that it will change to, it's time to hook these up into our animator. So I'm going to open up the animator window, and I'm going to, I guess we could leave it up there. Okay, so if I double click on this, it'll open this up if it's not open already. And so we have a couple things that we can see here. Now, just like I'm kind of showing you right now, everything that's actually in this window can be dragged around. I'm literally just clicking and dragging on it, and that can help with your organization of the animator. So the clip that is highlighted in orange is the one that will be playing when you enter into the screen. Now, if you made a mistake and you forgot to make an idle and you make that second, that's okay. What you can do is you can change whichever one is the default state by right-clicking on the clip and saying set as layer default. So I want the idle to be the default, so I can right-click and say when we enter into the scene, idle will be playing. Now, if I want to give my animator the ability to move from the idle state into the spinning state, I need to create a transition. So I'm right clicking and I say make transition. I get this little arrow that's following my mouse and I just click on the clip that I want to transition to. So we'll just do one transition and then we can do a more complex example a little bit later. But so now I have the ability to idle and then start spinning. You can go back as well, but we're just gonna go in one direction. So I made a second one and I can delete this by just hitting Command Delete. So once we have given it the ability to move from one clip to the other, we need to set up the parameter that defines when this will happen. So I need to go to my parameters, and this is a moment where you kind of choose what is the thing that is causing this change to happen. So let's say I want the animation clip to happen when I get close to something. If it was based on distance, I might use a float. If it was based on whether something is true or not, I could use a Boolean. If it's just something that happens once and it's kind of like you pull the trigger and it does it, you do a trigger. So I'm just going to do a trigger one for now. So I'm going to say the trigger will be like hit the space bar and then it will start spinning. So I'm going to add a trigger parameter and we're going to say, I like to name these parameters as like do something. So like when this parameter is true, it will do spinning. So here's my parameter. And now, so we've created a parameter, but we need to associate this parameter with the transition that it is informing. So I have this transition, I have this parameter. I need to tell the transition that the condition upon which it will happen is the do spin parameter. So I only have one parameter, so I hit the little plus button and it automatically fills it in because that's the only one that exists. But if I, for example, had another one based on a float, I could hypothetically choose a different one. So we'll just leave it as do spin. And okay, so this is all you need to hook this up. And what we can do now is basically use a script to tell our animator when this trigger is pulled. So I'm going to drag this down here so we can actually see our scene. And I'm going to add a script on our cube. That is the control animator. So I'm going to open that up. Now, in order to control the animator, we're going to start off the same exact way that we normally do when we're trying to access a component and do stuff with it. I'm going to create an animator component and I'll call it anim. An animator, not component, excuse me, an animator variable. I'm going to set anim equal to get component animator here. And then we will say that when we hit the space bar, so if input dot get key down, keycode.space. Then we will basically set that trigger. So we will basically like say go to the trigger. So the way that we set the trigger is by saying anim.set trigger. So the type of parameter that we created was a trigger. Notice how there is set bool, set float, right? There's one for each of these, set trigger. So trigger is the type that we made. So I'll say set trigger. And then in here, in the parentheses, we're going to give it the name of the trigger parameter. So I called it do spin. Now, this is case sensitive, so make sure you know what you named your parameter. Okay. And that's it. So I'll click save, go into Unity, and if I hit play, it does nothing, but if I hit spacebar, it will start spinning. So fun. One thing that's kind of cool about this is you can actually see this working in your Animator as you are testing it. So when we hit start, the idle is kind of happening, and then we hit spacebar, and yep. I think you have to have this selected. Play. There we go. So you can see it playing. And then if you hit spacebar, it starts spinning. So one thing you might notice is that it's kind of playing the idle. I hit spacebar. If I hit spacebar right when it starts playing, it waits until it finishes before it moves to the next. So if you want it to just go right away, you can click on the transition and uncheck the has exit time button, and then that will let you just kind of switch automatically. So if I hit play and I hit spacebar, it just automatically switches without having to finish that first clip playing.